What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing my typical climbing team that I run to regain some elo, usually after I've dropped below 2,000 running some absolute nonsense teams like I did in my most recent live stream. And these are actually the first battles I've done since that stream, and I can tell you the frame drops and stutter lag are just as bad, if not even worse than then, and I could have very easily gained more than 200 elo in one day if the game actually functioned properly. Now I did these battles yesterday and this video was supposed to go up then, but I just felt so frustrated with the game that I didn't even want to make a video, despite the fact that I actually did pretty well with this team. Right now it's probably the worst game state we've had in a very long time, and it's super disappointing to think that prior to the biome update, GBL was actually pretty smooth. Yeah, of course there were still plenty of game mechanics that were inconsistent, and they still are, and it is quite irritating when your opponent benefits from inconsistencies, but at least the game felt smooth. Since the biome update, stutter lag has become pretty common, and since the update a few days ago, the game has become borderline unplayable with the amount of stutters and other issues that have arisen. And don't get me wrong, frame drops and stutters affect everyone playing in the Go Battle League, but when you're someone like me that typically prefers to run glassier Pokemon, frame drops are so much more costly, because at least if you're running something like a Mandibuzz, if the game forces you to overtap because it stutters as you're reaching a charge move, at least you're probably going to live whatever move the opponent throws, even if it is super effective. But when you're running glass cannons and you miss your move because the game freezes, that's going to force you either to use a shield that you didn't want to use, or you're probably just going to get KO'd. So yeah, whilst this team is pretty glassy by most people's standards, it's definitely on the safer end of what I use, and I don't really know how experimental I'm going to be with my teams this rotation. So since I got quite a few cool Greatly remix submissions towards the end of that cup, I think I'll just showcase some of those over the next few days. But anyways, with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. What is your go-to team for climbing elo? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so heading into the first battle, and this is the first battle I did with this team, leading into a Skarmory, so very good for us. The opponent's going to say swap into a Azumarill, and a lot of people are probably thinking, what do you do up against Azumarill? Well, if they swap into it, we're just going to stay in with Salazzle, go for a Poison Fang, and then swap into Goodra. And the opponent throws an Ice Beam straight away, and Goodra is tanky enough to live an Ice Beam reasonably comfortably. They're not going to be able to bubble farm me down, or at least they're going to have to pretty much double shield if they want to do that. We're going to go for a Thunder Punch, throwing on the CP tie, taking out the Azumarill there. I'm not sure if without the debuff that would have KO'd, I don't really know, but either way we take them out there, and they come in with a Registeel, which is very interesting. I'm going to go for an Aquatail here. Aquatail not going to do too much damage here, and the opponent's going to swap back into Skarmory. I don't quite make it to a Thunder Punch, but that's fine. I'm going to settle for the Aquatail, and we grab a shield from the opponent anyways. That does make sense because of course we've got a Salazzle, and especially when they throw it on poor timing, we're going to deal big damage with the Incinerates here, so they kind of needed to shield something. I swap out here just because I'm thinking I don't want my Salazzle to be too low to the point where actually they can just lock on farm me down with the Registeel. We're going to swap into Shadow Dragonair, shield up the Zap Cannon, which is unfortunate that they do get the debuff there, but it doesn't really matter. This is game over. We go for an Aquatail. Aquatail goes unshielded, and of course we've got no shields remaining, but it doesn't really matter. The opponent goes for another Zap Cannon for some reason, and we can just go for a full Dragon Breath farm down, so the opponent just concedes the match there. So going into the next battle, and this is going to be the first of many battles where unfortunately the stutter lag just massively impacts the decisions that I have to make here. Obviously I tried to catch the resisted Thunder Punch onto my Goodra, but I'm forced to no shield because I know Salazzle is glassy, but it can live a Thunder Punch, whereas, you know, I don't know what they've got in the bag there, and also because my team is pretty glassy, when I can live a charge move, I probably am going to no shield. But anyways, we're going to no shield once again. Unfortunately, they are going to resist my charge moves on the Goodra, so despite having the typing advantage here, it's actually not that big of an advantage, and at this point, I'm just going to let Goodra go down. I'm going to save my shields for the Shadow Dragonair, but of course I would prefer if my Salazzle was a lot healthier than it is right now. So we get the Dragon Breath farm down, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They come in with Goodra. Now here at this point I'd go for a Body Slam, and then I'd eventually just swap into my Salazzle, but because we are so low in HP, I can't really afford to do that because they're just going to Dragon Breath farm me down. So I'm going to shield up the Aquatail here, swap into Salazzle, and we're able to go for a Poison Fang into Typhlosion coming back in. Poison Fang grabs the final shield, but unfortunately they're at back-to-back Thunder Punches right now, so I can shield this up, but they will be able to throw another one, and unfortunately we are just too low here, so this Thunder Punch will of course be enough damage despite being resisted to take out the Shadow Dragonair, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there, of course. If we did just make that catch, then I think we would be in a much better position. But anyways, into the next battle, we see Feraligatr in the lead. Honestly, I've not seen too many Feraligatr recently, so I don't know if it's just fallen out of favor, but we're going to swap into Goodra. We're met with a Dragonair, and unfortunately, again, all the moves are going to be resisted, but they're going to shield anyway, so at this point, I'm happy to let Goodra go down. Now, what I could do is come in with my own Dragonair and Dragon Breath farm them down before they make it to a move, but I know that Feraligatr has quite a lot of energy already, so what we're going to do, come in with Salazzle, and I realised that, of course, when they throw on their Feraligatr, we're going to get a full Incinerate in for free, and then I will come up with another Poison Fang. So I don't mind shielding here, but again, we don't get the Incinerate in, and honestly, I would recommend don't run any Incinerate users right now, because if you miss an Incinerate, that is as costly as it's going to get. If you're running like a one-turn fast move, like with these Dragon Breath users, if you miss one Dragon Breath, it's not going to be the end of the world, but if you miss a full Incinerate, that is going to be massively impacting what you're going to do in that game. But anyways, luckily for us, they do have a Gligar in the back. Honestly, I've not been keeping track of the energy of that Feraligatr, so I'm going to throw before I get too low here, and I am just barely able to Dragon Breath, farm them down before they make it to a move. So fortunately for me, I did still come out with the win there, but again, very frustrating. But GG's to the opponent there. Internet's going to see Cresselia say swapping into us. So again, just going to go for a Poison Fang here. And then because Goodra is a bit bulkier, we're going to come in with the Goodra. I should be able to live a Moonblast. Or of course, if they're just running Future Sight, then I'm also going to No Shield and let that go through. And we are going to go for an Aqua Tail here. By the way, if you are running Goodra, Aqua Tail and Thunder Punch deal the same amount of damage in neutral situations. And here again, we get more starter lag and we don't get the farm down. But fortunately for me, it is just a Grass Knot, so we still maintain alignment there. We also come out with very little HP, so maybe that actually worked out slightly better for us. But they're going to come in with an Air Slash Mandibuzz. I'm going to back the Poison Fang, and at this point, this is game over. I don't really even intend on shielding my Dragonair. Possibly should have gone for a Poison Fang first, because, of course, that energy on my Salazzle isn't really going to be useful up against that Sand Slash, so maybe should have just gone for the Poison Fang. But either way, doesn't matter. We actually get the Dragon Breath farm down. We can go for the Aqua Tail, and there's literally nothing they can do right now unless we just completely lag out of this game, which honestly could still happen here. You never know with GBL right now, but we're going to shield this up as they go for an Ice Punch bait, and we can just, well, I mean, we are lagging there, but the opponent's just going to concede the match, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Internet's going to see Annihilate in the lead. So this is kind of okay for us. And the opponent's just going to go straight for a Night Slash. So I'm going to let this go through. Well, I mean, it is going to do quite a lot of damage, to be fair. But the opponent's going to swap into Bastion. So I need to get the heck out of there. We swap into our Goodra. Once again, because it is a bit bulkier. But 2 Aqua Tails is not going to be enough damage. And I think the Dragon Breaths are doing less damage than they would with Shadow Dragonair. So there is a slight issue. I'm not used to running Pokemon as... Well, I mean, Goodra's not exactly bulky. But compared to a lot of the Pokemon I run, it is definitely bulkier, so a lot of the Dragon Breath does reach a breakpoint where it deals 2 damage up against Bastion, which actually is pretty good. But unfortunately here, I'm going to throw a third Aqua Tail. Luckily for me, we get there on the CMP tie. So at this point, once again, just going to let the Goodra go down. We're going to come in with the Shadow Dragonair, and you can see the difference in the Dragon Breath damage. You're actually able to farm them down there, despite it being resisted. They come in with a Dugong, so not ideal, but we can go for a Body Slam here. And then I'm going to try and swap into my Salazzle and go for a Dragon Pulse here. I'm hoping the opponent will just let this go through, thinking it's a Poison Fang, but no, they end up shielding. Luckily for me, we do make it to a Poison Fang here, and whilst this won't KO, it will put them into Dragon Breath farm down range, but here I make a huge mistake. For whatever reason, I thought they were at the Icy Wind straight away, so what I did was I threw thinking they would CMP tie, and I wanted to get the Body Slam off before they debuff me, but it's actually wrong. They were only at 4 Ice Shards, and you can see we just barely miss out on making it to a second Body Slam there. So if I threw on good timing, going for 2 Dragon Breaths before throwing the Body Slam, I could have definitely won that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Internet's going to see a Gligar say swapping into our Salazzle after leading into a lone Sand Slash. So once again, just going to go for the Poison Fang. I realise that is resisted damage, but it just means we can come in with the Goodra and guarantee this matchup. They go for the dig there, fine with me, and again we start to lag. We are trying to throw the Aqua Tail there, but the game doesn't allow me to do so, and now we're forced into shielding, and that's really bad because whilst yes, of course, Salazzle, a very hard answer to the Alolan Sand Slash, they're probably going to be running Drill Run, which is going to definitely take out Salazzle since it's double super effective. So whilst yes, I can go for back-to-back Aqua Tails, it's really not doing much damage here, and what this is allowing them to do is go for a full Powder Snow farm down. We come in with Salazzle, and they are going to throw, but luckily for for me, this is still going to allow me to land one Incinerate, and they've got a Charge Bug in the back. So once again, I don't think it's going to matter too much in this matchup, but still very frustrating that pretty much every game there is some sort of huge error where unfortunately we're being punished, and we're basically missing out on fast moves or not being able to get off a charge move, and it is impacting the decisions that I'm having to make in the game. But either way, GG's to that opponent there. Into next game, we see Salazzle into Golbat, so this is fine with me. The opponent is going to stay in here, and they will outpace me just barely to a Shadow Ball. They're probably going to bait with a Poison Fang, but that's fine. They do go for the Poison Fang, but I'm just going to do the exact same thing. Go for one extra Incinerate, make sure I throw it on good timing. Go for the Poison Fang, grab a shield, and now we're going to swap into Goodra. Since this is an ABB style team, you do eventually want to swap out of neutral leads into your Safe Swap, because that way if they are running like a Fairy type Pokemon, for example, we can bait it out, and therefore Salazzle can take them on in the end game. But either way, we're going to see a Clodsire coming in. I'm thinking I might just barely live this. I'm not certain. Sludge Bomb. Nope, never mind. We were debuffed, I think, from the Golbat there, so definitely does take us out. But we're going to come in with the Shadow Dragonair, and at this point, I think I'm going to shield the first move here. And the opponent's going to go for another Sludge Bomb, so unfortunately I think that might allow them to make it to another Sludge Bomb before we get the full Dragon Red Farm down. But luckily for me, Sludge Bomb not going to do too much damage here. We can get the Dragon Red Farm down, and let's see, the opponent comes in with a Quagsire, so this is going to be a little bit tricky here. I'm going to go for the Body Slam. Body Slam is going to do some decent damage, and the opponent swaps. They try to catch the next move, so I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I tried to throw on the CMP tie as well. We go for the Poison Fang. Poison Fang actually grabs the final shield, and that's huge for me. Assuming the game allows me to throw a charge move when we come back in with the Shadow Dragonair, we've already got the Body Slam loaded, so we can throw it straight away. And since we debuffed their defense, this Body Slam easily gets the KO up against the Quagsire, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Internet's going to see Bastiodon in the lead. So of course, not great for us. Going to Safe Swap into my Goodra, and I will of course outpace them to an Arctotel. We've got to be careful though. We don't want them to catch a charge move from us. Arctotel, you can see, doesn't really do much damage there, and like I mentioned already, these Dragon Breaths only dealing 1 damage instead of 2 when you're running a slightly more attack weighted Dragon Pokemon. But they're going to swap here. They try to catch an Arctotel onto Poliwrath, but that's actually great for me as we can go straight for a Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch grabs the shield, and we throw on the CMP Titan. By the way, this Poliwrath is actually running Mud Shot instead of Counter, so that is something to note. Unfortunately, that means Salazzle not going to be particularly good up against this Poliwrath, because we're going to take double super effective damage. But what I'm assuming is Salazzle's going to be pretty useless up against the Bastiodon as well, so might as well come in here and throw on the CMP tie with an Icy Wind, so they're not actually farming to a potential Scald, which might mean they're running like Dynamic Punch, I don't know. But either way, gonna no shield here, and then I will swap into my Shadow Dragonair, get the Dragon Rare farm down, and the opponent's got a Medicham in the back, so running double fighters with Bastiodon in the lead. We're gonna go straight for the Body Slam here. Honestly, I maybe should have overfarmed a little bit here, just in case the opponent now swaps back into Bastiodon, but they're going to go for a power-up punch, which isn't ideal, which means I basically have to throw straight away. I go for an Arctotel here just in case the opponent tries to make a catch on their Bastiodon, because of course Arctotel would be super effective, and we barely make it to another Arctotel, but unfortunately this just isn't quite enough damage to get the KO, and they come out with a charge we've loaded, and of course Salazzle not going to be able to tank a Stone Edge, so it takes us out there, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there. Internet's going to see Charge Bug in the lead, so great lead for us. They're going to Safe Swap into Quagsire, and we did stutter a bit there, but we're able to get out after 1 Incinerate. We swap into Goodra once again because it is a little bit bulkier, and we can tank 2 Mud Bombs here. Going to go for the Arctotel straight away, and of course I don't expect a shield here since we didn't even farm to a potential Grass Knot, but that's fine. I think the opponent might have started there as they should have got a Mud Shot through. I thought that was a CMP tie, but it wasn't apparently, and at this point we can definitely just live the next Mud Bomb here. I shielded the first one, or the second move, because I thought maybe they did farm up to a Stone Edge, but we play it safe there, and now we regain switch advantage, and they come in with a defense from the Deoxys. So going for the Arctotel, not going to do much damage, but that's fine. We've got Shadow Dragonair, and these Dragon Breaths are chunking since they do actually have very little HP. We are going to no shield the first move as they go for a Rock Slide. Fine with me. We're going to go for a Body Slam here. I'm going to try and stay in as long as possible. I'm thinking, you know what, I might be able to fully Dragon Breath farm them down. It's going to be very close, but I didn't want to take the risk there, so I swap into my Salazzle. Honestly, probably should have just stayed in and gone for the Dragon Breath farm down, but they're going to come back in with a Charge Bug. We're going straight for the Poison Fang. Poison Fang is going to grab the final shield from the opponent, and we get off a debuffed Incinerate onto their HP there. So they go for the discharge, but we can make it to a Body Slam, and once again, since they are debuffed, Body Slam will be taking out the Charger Bug, and I'm able to take that game. So very close game there. I honestly didn't play that particularly well, but we're able to pick up the win. Into next battle, we're going to see Azumarill in the lead. So typically, if it's in the lead, I'm just going to go for 2 Incinerates. It's not perfect timing, but it's probably the best timing I can do, other than staying in for too long and taking too many bubbles worth of damage. So we're going to swap here. Once again, they just go for an Ice Beam. That's running double Fairy, which is very interesting, and it's very good that we actually swapped into our Goodra here to bait out this Alolan Ninetales. Here, I went for the Thunder Punch. Like I mentioned, it doesn't really matter which one you go for in neutral situations because they're going to deal the same damage. Typically, you would go for Aqua Tail since, of course, it is going to be less energy, but when you're only making it to 1 move, then it doesn't really matter. But what does matter is the opponent gets a full Powder Snow in, like after the Incinerate should have registered, and that is just really frustrating. And that might again be costly here because I can't stay in with my Salazzle. I have to swap out. They've got Clodsire in the back, but this is just not looking too good for us. I'm going to go for an Aqua Tail here. We throw, I think that might have been a CMP tie with a potential Stone Edge or a Sludge Bomb, but it wasn't enough for an Earthquake, so I'm going to no shield. We do live that, not particularly comfortably, but we live it nonetheless. And now we're going to go for an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail will, of course, grab the final shield from the opponent, and we're able to make it to 1 final Aqua Tail. And yes, again, if we didn't have to take that unnecessary damage from that Alolan Ninetales, we can come in with the Salazzle, go for the Incinerate farm down, and easily take out the Azumarill. But unfortunately, because they got to another move, we end up losing that game. But GG's to opponent there. Into next, going to see a Skeledirge in the lead. So I'm going to say swap into my Goodra. I'm going to go straight for an Aqua Tail, throwing just before they make it to a potential Disarming Voice. And at this point, I'm just going to let this go through. I know I can live this, and we will still be able to make it to another Aqua Tail if they try and go for a farm down. But the opponent makes a very nice catch, catching onto Vigoroth, although it doesn't really matter too much. They're going to get 1 counter through. We can come back in with the Salazzle, and we're going to do exactly that. And the opponent's going to throw on the potential CMB tie with a Poison Fang, but I was happy not to throw there. So now we can go for an extra Incinerate, throw just before they make it to the next Body Slam. And we actually grab a shield there, so I'm definitely just going to throw the next Poison Fang straight away here. Just get rid of this Vigoroth, and then I think I will possibly swap. Maybe I'm just going to stay in, actually. I'm going to stay in because they are quite low, so I'm going to shield this up. Could be a Shadow Ball. They bait with a Disarming Voice, but that's fine. They're going to swap into Umbreon, and because we start to lag again, they get like 3 Snarls in and a swap in the time that it takes me to get 1 Incinerate off and then throw a Poison Fang. So that is very frustrating, and that's actually going to allow them to outpace me here in this matchup. So we're going to go for a Body Slam. Unfortunately, Body Slam doesn't get the KO, but it doesn't really matter. We put them into range where we can Incinerate farm them down. This Foul Play will get the KO, but we can go for the Incinerate farm down, and they are in range where we can just go straight for a Poison Fang. I could have gone for the Dragon Pulse there, but there's no reason to. Poison Fang will take out the Skeledirge, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. I forgot to edit out the start of this finding a battle, but either way, we're going to lead Salazzle into Alolan Ninetales, so great lead matchup for us. And the opponent's going to stay in with their Ninetales. They're running Charm as well, so this is really good. I did think about over-farming here, but if I do over-farm, then I'm going to throw on Alignment, and either way, that doesn't quite take them out there, so we can get the full farm down. We're going to swap straight away, and they've got a Venusaur in the back, so I think this just looks like a GG pretty much instantly. I'm going to no-shield. They're just going for a Frenzy Plant, but I suppose that does make sense, seeing as a Sludge Bomb wouldn't take us out either, so they kind of have to just throw 2 moves anyways. But we can go for the Aqua Tail. We get the Dragon Breath farm down there, and that's one thing I haven't mentioned yet, but I did mention, of course, that Incinerate very bad to use right now because if you miss an Incinerate, then it's going to be very costly. On the other hand, using 1-turn fast moves is probably the way to go, because if the opponent stutters and you get off 1 extra Dragon Breath through, you might just take them out there before they get to a charge you. So it is playing dirty a little bit, but you kind of just have to go with what the game is forcing you to use right now. Don't run Incinerate users. Try to avoid using any sort of high turn fast moves and just go for the sort of lower turn fast moves. So 1 and 2 turn fast moves is probably the way to go. But anyways, into next battle, we see Altaria in the lead. Not great. Gonna say swap into my Goodra, and we bait out a Steelix, which also isn't ideal for us, but they're allowing me to make it to another Aqua Tail, so I'm definitely going to take that. Gonna go for the Aqua Tail, and we actually land it, but I'm thinking, if I use a shield here, we're not in the best position anyway, so I'm going to let it go down. I am going to come in with my Dragonair, I think, just because I can Dragon Breath farm them down before they make it to the next move, and they've got Empoleon in the back, so probably should have fought for switch advantage, but of course Empoleon with an energy advantage and a shield advantage up against my Salazzle also isn't particularly good, because of course Hydro Cannon definitely going to one-shot us. So either way, I don't think there's an awful lot we could have done here. I full send the Dragon Pulse, hoping the opponent would just think, oh, it's going to be a Poison Fang bait, but unfortunately that was not the case. They go for a Sky Attack, we can come in with the Shadow Dragonair, and honestly I need this Body Slam to KO. I can't take too much damage from these Dragon Breaths, but unfortunately it doesn't KO, and now we are definitely in range where they can just commit to a full Steel Wing farm down. I'm not going to make it to back-to-back moves, I don't get the Dragon Breath farm down either, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there, Internet Security Charge Bug in the lead. So they're both going to safe swap into Lickitung, fine with me. Just going to go for a Poison Fang here and guarantee a much more comfortable matchup for the Goodra. And now these Dragon Breaths are chunking a fair bit. We're going to no-shield the first move as they go for a Body Slam. I'm going to O-Farm just slightly here, and Aqua Tail, I'm thinking probably will KO from this range, but actually doesn't quite KO, but we do get the Dragon Breath farm down anyways, getting it just before they make it to the next charge move, and the opponent's going to come in with a Azumarill, so this isn't too bad for us. Of course, we do have that Thunder Punch for coverage. I'm going to go for it straight away here, and Thunder Punch will, of course, land. It doesn't do much damage, in all honesty, but the opponent over-farms, allowing me to make it to a second Thunder Punch here, and at this point, we grab a shield, and this is great with me. We're just going to no-shield at this point. We're going to come in with the Shadow Dragonair, actually, just because we don't want to take too much damage from the bubbles. And of course, the Charge Bug can actually flip the matchup up against Salazzle if we're pretty low. So, going to come in with the Dragonair, and actually at this point, I'm just going to stay in. I'm going to force the opponent to go for an X-Scissor. And we're going to go for a Body Slam here. Body Slam does some very nice damage. I'm not going to throw the next move. I'm waiting for the opponent to throw their charge move here. And the opponent's actually going to go for a Discharge. I think what they were thinking was that we try and swap and make a catch there. So pretty nice heads up play. But unfortunately for them, we didn't go for that in the end. So we can just come in with Salazzle, go for the Poison Fang, grab the final shield. They're not going to be able to bubble, farm me down. It doesn't matter even if they were able to do so, as Dragonair has a charge move loaded. But they go for an Ice Beam. I'm just going to shield that, go for a Poison Fang. And of course, Poison Fang will be enough damage to take out the Azumarill, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there into the final battle of this video. I believe we're going to lead into Umbreon, so this is fine with us. Again, this is a fairly neutral matchup, so I will eventually swap out of this matchup. Going to go for a Poison Fang, then swap into my Goodra, and the opponent's going to fire off a Charge Move. I'm happy to let this go through here. Goodra is kind of the damage sponge on this team. Despite not being super bulky, it's definitely a lot bulkier than the rest of the team. But the opponent tries to catch a move there as they swap into Tentacruel. This is where Thunder Punch coverage comes in very nicely, as we can hit for super effective damage. And a second Thunder Punch will get the KO, so the opponent uses their shield. And if the opponent goes for a full farm down, we are just barely able to make it to an Aqua Tail, which is very nice. Aqua Tail, despite being resisted, will of course KO from that range. I'm going to come in with Salazzle just in case they're at back-to-back moves. Incinerate will get the KO even if they debuff me with a Skull debuff there, but they should go for an Acid Spray instead. Still fine with me. I'm going to wait to see what comes in. It's going to be a Swampert, so not ideal. We're going to swap into Shadow Dragonair. And at this point, I'm going to shield this. I think this is just going to be a Hydro Cannon. I think they were at the Earthquake, but pretty obvious bait there. But at this point, we're just going to no shield, and I need to come out with basically near back-to-back moves loaded. And if I don't get there in time, I'd actually just rather not throw, because now at this point, the opponent will be taking us out, but we've put them into range where 2 Incinerates will just barely get the KO, and we can go for a Dragon Pulse into the Swampert coming back in. And from this range, Dragon Pulse gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.